Well, hello farming friends, and welcome back to another edition of Farming Simulator 2015 with me, your old buddy, Mr. Moose. Hey, today we continue on with our CoursePlay Tutorials, and we're going to talk about the Overloader mode. Now, quick confession before we get into this, I did post a video about the Overloader. I messed up the aspect ratios on it, so I'm having to re-record it and repost it, so bear with me on this. So, let's get back with the video now. What is Overloader mode? Overloader gives you the ability to take a tractor with an auger wagon, as you see here, unload your combine with it, rather that it, and then you take your overloader and you haul it over here to a tractor trailer rig that is waiting, or a tipper and another tractor, and you dump it into there. Then when this fills up with grain, it is taken to your sell point or silo and it is dumped. Meanwhile, the tractor and the auger wagon stay in the field and tend to the combine. So this allows you to constantly be working with your tractor and combine combination without the combine sitting inactive in the field. It's especially helpful when you have fields that are a long distance from the farm. You can use this guy to unload, and you can use these guys to handle your grain transfer. So let's get into the overloader mode. Now, the key things with overloader is you have to have the transfer vehicle, the auger wagon, and the combine. Now, the transfer vehicle is your first thing you need to set up, because it's what the auger wagon keys off of. So we have to figure out where it's going to be sitting and its position so that we can set the auger wagon up to dump into it. So we're going to go ahead and pull right here to where we want our tractor to do it. And the reason I'm here and not up by that field is I'm setting this up to be used for both fields, and I want my grain transport to be set somewhere where it's out of the way, where combine's not going to run into it, neither is the auger wagon. So this, for this particular area, is a good spot for me. So now that I've picked out the spot where my grain transport is going to start, I need to record a course for it to go back to the silo or sell point. In this case, we're going to go back to the farm and we're going to unload there. So I'm going to be pulling out and I'm going to be recording a course for grain transport headed back out to the farm. Now, if you watch my video on the basics of CoursePlay and how to make a simple grain transport, you'll know how to do this already. It's pretty straightforward. You just record a course that heads all the way back to the farm. It drives over your unloading points, and then that particular vehicle will come back to the field and stop to unload. So while we're doing this, let's talk about overloader mode and how you can use it. You can only use overloader mode for things that can be harvested in the auger wagon. Potatoes, can't do it. Sugar beets, can't do it, because you cannot harvest potatoes and sugar beets in an auger wagon. Anything that's got to be spun with an auger, grains, oats. So in the standard mode, your wheat, barley, canola, they can be harvested, as well as corn. But your sugar beets and your potatoes, they cannot be. So just keep that in mind. So in this particular instance, we're going to be recording our course to bring us down to the silo. And I've told you before, you can use these transfer courses. You can run them over multiple sell points, but because this is for an auger wagon, it makes no sense for me to go do the sugar beets or the potatoes, because I can't use an auger wagon with those. So I'm just going to go over the grain sell point with this route, and then I'm going to take it back around and up to the field. And of course, I keep in mind my course. I lay it out and I think ahead of time as to what could be in my way, and I record my courses so that I don't chance two vehicles that are doing transport of any kind. I don't give them the opportunity to run into each other, so I usually travel on one side of the road in, one side of the road out, keeping in mind that other vehicles might be using that particular route. Now in overloader mode, you can unload as many combines as you want with the overloader. So you could use this on really big, large fields, and you can unload multiple combines. That's really great. You can use multiple trucks as your transport. They'll just come and sit in the load spot until you tell it to until it fills up, and then once the grain transport is completely full, it will drive the grain transport route and dump itself out. So let's say it's a particularly long distance from one field to the farm and you're running multiple combines. You might want to run 2 tractor trailers to handle the workload, but in most instances you'll be able to use just one really large trailer as your grain transport, and then your auger wagon will fill up and make multiple deliveries to it to fill it up. Because this is the thing, it usually takes 3 full passes for the auger wagon to fill up a grain transport. So if you're using a big one like this. Alright, so we're going to bring our course back around. Now for this instance of a grain transport, instead of bringing my course all the way up to my start point, I usually end my course down here just a little bit. And the reason for that is when I come back to this field and I want to resume this course, which I'm going to show you in just a second, we're going to save this course and then I'll show you this. So let's save this real quick as we're in between fields 34 and 39. So I'm going to say this is field 34-39, and I'm going to use a capital F, turn off caps lock. 34-39, unload to silo. Alright, so now I've got that course locked in. It is saved, so I have that for further use down the road. So let's say I've recorded this a long time ago and I want to come up here and use this course. And the key to this is making sure that your trailer is in the same position every time for the auger wagon to unload into. Well, if I come up here and I manually try and get that start point by moving into it, I might not get my trailer in the right position. So if I leave my stopping point way down here a little bit, what I can do is I can come in here, I can get up on this little dot right here, and with my course laid out, when I resume my course, it'll come to the stop sign and then it'll pull up. And every time I do this course, the trailer will end up in the exact same spot because it starts here and it transfers up to the starting point to wait to be full. So let's go ahead and get this guy set up and we'll get him in place, and I'll show you that. We're going to select the grain transport mode, and I always work from right to left. If you wanted to put 4-wheel drive on, you would. You don't need to. You set your speed, and of course remember, I've told you as before, I like to keep my max speed down pretty low. So I'm going to come in here, I'm going to turn speed from the recording to maximum, and I'm going to dial down my speed to about 22 miles an hour. That way I don't run the risk of running into anything. And I'm going to leave my reverse speed where it's at. Now that I have my speed set here, I can come in and go back to from the recording, and it won't exceed 22 miles an hour. Everything else is pretty standard. It doesn't need any of this start at. It will drive when it reaches at least 90% full, and the course is loaded. So now all I have to do is hit drive course, and what it will do is it will pull itself up to the stop, and then now it will proceed to the start where it's going to stop and wait to fill up. And so see how that gets my trailer in position, and I'll have that in position correctly every time that I come and use this course. And that's the reason I leave my stopping point further back than this, is so it helps get the trailer in the alignment point where it needs to be. So with that finished, now we transfer over to our auger wagon itself, and we record the course that the auger wagon is going to use to dump. And basically what's going to happen is it'll sit in the field, it will follow the combine every time the combine wants to empty, and then when it's full, it needs a course to the grain transport to unload. So that's what we're going to record now. So we'll come in here to our CoursePlay controls and we're going to start a recording. And where I like to put this is somewhere in the middle of the field to where it's going to be able to get to pretty quick. So I usually bring it somewhere towards the edge of the field and towards the middle of the field itself. Now a lot of people will tell you you need to start this in the very center of the field. I don't typically do that. I usually have it come out here to the edge, but you can start it wherever you want. You can have it pick it up at the end of in the middle of the field. That's a good thing. I like for it to be sort of out here to the edge as my starting point. You can put it wherever you think. It doesn't even have to be in the field. It could be out here on the edge somewhere. It doesn't matter as long as it's within line of sight from everything in the field. You don't want there to be a possibility for it to run into a building or any sort of obstacle when it's trying to get back to this point. So this is the reason a lot of people say put it in the middle of the field. That way it has an easy line of sight to the starting point and go. But I always just check to make sure there's clean lines of sight from everywhere in the field and I shouldn't have any problem. Start recording, and I'm going to close this so we can zoom out to see what we're doing. And we'll just come over here, make a gradual turn out of the field, and we're going to head over to where our overloader is. Now you can record this with or without the spout out. I always like to put the spout out so I can go ahead and see what I'm doing. It helps me out. Now it helps me get my alignment to the trailer so I don't get too close to the trailer. Now just for the purposes of this video, to keep it shorter, I've already got some grain in this trailer. So now that I've got my alignment pretty much straight up, I'm going to pull that in because I don't want to unload the trailer, because I don't want to have to sit all day and record this course just for recording purposes. But now you just imagine that spout's in that trailer. We put in our weight point. That cues the overloader program to say this is where I want it to dump. Get that out of the way. Thank you for messing my recording up. Alright, so it hits the weight point, it unloads, and then it pulls off and it goes back to somewhere where it's going to wait for the combine to call it back. So we're just going to spin around here. We're going to head back towards the field. And the only other thing I can tell you about this is when you record your course returning back to the field, keep in mind of which direction your grain transport is going to be leaving. You don't want to record your overloader driving in front of that course and possibly giving them an opportunity to collide into one another. You can't tell that I've done that before, can you? So then you just want to have this guy return to a waiting point for it to be called by the combine. And for me, that's usually right around the edge of the field. If you want it to be in the middle of the field, you can. You just have to think about what you're doing. If you're unloading one combine and you're manually selecting that combine, here at the edge of the field is great. Just look around and see that you don't have any line of sight issues, and I don't with this particular field. If you're doing multiple combines and you're going to use automatic mode, you have to have the tractor sitting in the field where it can see both tractors. So you're going to want to have that route pulled to the center of the field. But for this instance, I can just have it at the edge. So my course is recorded. I'm going to save that, and I'm just going to call this Field 34 Overloader, and I have that saved. Now all I have to do is my course is saved. I just got to set it up for overloader mode. So third button from the left is the overloader. You select that, tells it what mode we're in. I come and on top I work from right to left. I go ahead and set up 4-wheel drive just so I have better control. Settings, you can show or don't show these, it's up to you. Speed wise, field work I like to be about 18-19 miles an hour. Street speed no more than 20 with my tractors. I'm good with that. And again, if I need to adjust the speed here, I come out of the recording, I adjust my speed, and then I go back and set from recording. Alright, select the combine we're going to be using. Again, if you're using dual combines and you're going to stop in the middle of the field, you'll want to use automatic search. But for our recording, we're going to manually select. I'm going to select the New Holland, and I'll keep on going over. Settings. In the settings, the only thing you really need to worry about is start at and drive on. Start at 50%. That's how full the combine is when you go to unload it. 50% is a real good number. A lot of people will say, well, I can run it up to 80, 90% because it's not that far to it. Here's the thing. CoursePlay calls for your unload when it gets to this number, unless the pipe is sticking out into the fruit. If the pipe is on the fruit side of it, it's going to hold off calling the tractor until it either is almost full or it gets clear of the field and it's above this number. So if you set the number up to like 80% and it's coming across with the pipe out into the, it's on its down run and the pipe's out in the field, it's not going to call it until you get to about, until it's almost full. And at that point, your tractor's going to drive out into your field, and that's sort of unrealistic. If you don't care about that stuff, fine. But if you want it to unload always on the clear side of the tractor, set your number a little bit low. That way, the combine can call it when it hits 50% if the pipe's clear. If not, it knows it needs to call you, but it gives it a little more leeway to get this path cut and then make its turn, and then it can call you when it's like 80% full. So think about that. Start at, that's the number. Drive on at is the number that this tractor is going to go dump itself into the grain transport when it reaches this number and exceeds it. Now, if it's filling up the tractor and it hits 90%, it's not going to drive off until it's either completely unloaded or it reaches 100% capacity. But if it finishes up and it's 91%, it's going to go ahead and dump itself and not sit around and wait for that next 9%. So that's what this number here is. So check that, set it however you want to use it, and now we are good to go. So I can go ahead and say drive course. And with everything set and ready to go, we'll jump into our combine, set it on its way, and as it hits 50%, it's going to call our overloader and it is going to dump. So that's pretty much it. Now we just sit back and relax, drink our cold drink, and let somebody else do the hard work. So I hope all that makes sense. If it doesn't to you, feel free to send me a comment in the video and I will try to clear up any questions that you have and help you out with it. It's a very useful tool. It's especially useful when you're way away from the farm. You don't have to have several little tractors running back and forth to the farm all the time. You have one tractor in the field unloading the combine, and you have a big huge trailer sitting over there that gets filled up. It makes less trips. It's actually more economical for you from that standpoint. So this guy's going to make his turn. He's 41%, 42%. So he's just about ready to call our tractor to come over and unload him. And I've purposely gone ahead and filled that tractor almost up, so when we unload this time, it's going to unload and head on over to the grain transport to dump, because it's going to reach 100% capacity when this actually happens. So it's going to make its turn, come up and approach from the rear. Once it does, it will start dumping this guy out. Now, if you are going to use CoursePlay, I will suggest to you that you make sure you have a good buffer zone on both sides of your field. On the initial unloads, it's going to want to spool off to the right or the left. In this case, it would want to spool off to the left once it's full. If you've got trees right at the edge of the field, there's a good chance it might run into it. So you might want to take a chainsaw and cut down any trees right there on the edge of the field, just to alleviate any headaches of CoursePlay running into a tree because it didn't have enough room to maneuver. So we're getting on up. We're 97%. It's going to go ahead and run itself. There's still 30% in the combine. So it's going to run itself down to 100. Now it's going to pull off. So let's jump into there. And if we back out so you can watch what it does, it's going to take itself to the course, which, yes, the grain transport's there, but it's going to go reacquire the first part of this course, which is right down here. It'll come to the starting point, and usually, you know, it's going to overshoot it just a little bit and have to turn back in. So it goes to the nearest waypoint it finds, it turns, pulls itself back onto the course, which will drive it over to our waiting grain transport. Now the script is already written in, so the spout will open as it approaches the grain transport. You don't have to worry about that either. I know I've heard people talk about in FS15, you actually had to leave the spout open because there wasn't a controlling script for it. But in FS15, the script is there. CoursePlay opens up the spout for you. You'll approach the truck. When it hits the P, well, it's going to pause and let the trailer completely unload. Why it did that, I have no idea. It's going to unload itself now. It could have something to do with the fact that I recorded it with the spout closed. And it just wants to make me look silly. It normally wouldn't do that. Let me see if I can stop the driver and make it do right. It normally wouldn't do that. It just wants to do that and make me look bad while it's doing this. So let's have it pull up here. Some little glitch that time. Not sure why it did that, but it seems to be working fine now. Again, normally you wouldn't record the course and close the spout as you come up to the trailer. I simply did that for video purposes. So we'll let it unload. It'll undo its thing. Then when it drives off, it'll close the spout. It'll head back out to the field, and it will resume its duties. And at this point, our transporter, let's see, our grain transport is now about 49% full, almost 50% full. And at this point, our combine is now 84%. So by the time this guy finishes his route, he'll run back out and go straight to the combine and unload it. So that is it. That is the basics of the overloader, how to get it to work. And like I said, again, normally that spout glitch isn't there. It has something to do with the fact that I recorded it and closed the spout as I approached the vehicle. So that's the reason I had that little issue. So anyways, that's the basics of the overloader. Hope you guys enjoyed it. If you have any questions, feel free to comment in the comment section. If you have any more questions about CoursePlay, let me know. There are more tutorials coming. I'm just recording one a week basically, and building up the library. Hopefully soon I'll have all of it covered for you, so if you have any questions you can pretty much refer to every scenario. I'm Mr. Moose. This is CoursePlay Tutorials for Farming Simulator 2015. If you like the video, give me a thumbs up, and of course subscribe to the channel. New videos come out every single day. Until next time, have a great day, stay safe, and I will see you soon. Bye-bye. Hey, thanks again for watching this video, and if you made it all the way to the end, well, maybe you liked it. So give me a big old thumbs up. That like goes a long way. Also subscribe to this channel. I will update the videos every single day, so there'll always be something new for you to see. I hope you enjoyed it, and I hope you'll come back again tomorrow. Thanks for your support.